Hey, can I set this up behind that tree? It'd be a perfect spot for the launch, I said, pointing toward the old barren tree in the far corner of the farm. It was the only one without any decorations or an American flag. No, it's off limits. My cousin shook his head. That tree's cursed. I started to laugh, but the look on his face stopped me cold. I quieted down and asked him what he meant. Well, people say that on a stormy night, a woman hung herself from that tree. Lightning struck and burned both her and the tree to cinders. Now it's just the hollow trunk. Folks have tried to tear it down, but some say her spirit still lingers. Raphael moved off to finish setting up the rocket launchers, but I couldn't stop staring at that corner. The tree stood completely alone, its charred, twisted trunk jutting out from the dry grass. Suddenly, a freezing gust of wind whipped toward me from that direction, making me shiver. I laughed it off, trying to stay calm. I was 14 and way too old to buy into some rural ghost story. Besides, it was the 4th of July, and I wasn't about to let a creepy legend ruin my night. I'd been spending summers at Raphael's family farm in central Texas for as long as I could remember. Their 4th of July celebrations blew mine back home out of the water. We had the classic cookouts, parades, and games all day, and the night ended with 40 minutes of heavy-duty fireworks set off by the local crew. They lit up the whole sky in mesmerizing colors, and half the county would show up in lawn chairs to watch. I was obsessed. That year, Raphael and I were finally old enough to help the crew, which felt like I'd finally cracked the inner circle. During the day, I didn't even notice the tree, but as the sun went down, its bareness became impossible to ignore. The first time I spotted something strange, I was lugging a crate of shells toward the launch zone. I'd set the box down to grab some water when my eyes caught a flicker of movement in the corner of the field. I glanced over and saw a pale shape hovering near the base of the trunk. I pointed it out to Raphael, but he shrugged and said it was probably a plastic bag caught in the grass, so I let it go. But every time I had to walk past that corner, my skin prickled as if I were being watched. I kept catching quick flashes of white in my peripheral vision, but whenever I looked directly, nothing was there. The lower the sun sank, the more the hair on my arms stood up. I could swear I felt eyes crawling up the back of my neck. Soon, the music kicked in, and the tree slipped out of my mind. I was hanging out by the big American flag that had been put up that morning, when all of a sudden, the music seemed to fade into the background, and a soft humming melody drifted into my ears. It was weirdly hypnotic, and I felt drawn to it. I slipped away from the crowd and started walking toward the tree. When I finally saw her, my blood went cold. A woman was standing at its base. She was bony, gaunt, and dripping wet, as if she'd just been dragged out of a lake. Her hair was matted to her face, and her hollow red eyes stared right through me. My whole body started shaking. I felt cold and numb, but my heart was pounding. I wanted to reach out and touch her. Then, a group of guys walked by, and when I looked back, she was gone. A hand on my shoulder snapped me back. It was Raphael's dad. He'd found me standing there like a statue. I told him what I'd seen, but he said the atmosphere was probably playing tricks on me and sent me to grab some drinks. I tried to convince myself he was right and kept busy. About an hour later, the fireworks started. The sky exploded with colors. Everyone was cheering. Raphael was standing next to me, eating a popsicle and ranking the fireworks, and I was agreeing with him. Suddenly, the humming returned, and my legs started moving on their own. I walked right past a group of kids and an elderly couple watching the fireworks. I was about 40 feet from the tree, well beyond the launch area. My eyes were glued to it. The weather was clear, without a cloud in sight, and the night sky was bursting with fireworks. Then, thunder rumbled overhead, and lightning cracked across the sky. In that half-second flash, I saw the silhouette of a half-burned woman standing beside the tree. Her arms hung at her sides, and her head was tilted back. Her outline looked wrong, as if she had been burned away around the edges. Her face turned toward me. Her eyes were pleading, and her mouth formed the words, "Help me." I wanted to reach out, but before I could take another step, Raphael came running from the side. He grabbed my arm and dragged me back just as the final shell exploded, painting the sky red and white. I let him pull me back into the crowd and didn't look at the tree again. But when Raphael asked me what had happened, I couldn't stop going into detail about what I'd seen and felt. The next morning, they found the tree split down the center. It looked as though a door had been ripped open from top to bottom. Nobody had heard a thing during that night, and there hadn't been any storms or rain to explain it. Raphael's family didn't say a word about it at breakfast, and neither did we. But we did catch each other's eyes across the table for a second before looking away. 10 years have passed since then. I haven't been back to that farm, and Raphael and I have never mentioned it again. But sometimes, I still think about those pleading eyes and can't stop turning the story over in my head. What made her do it? Did she even do it herself, or did somebody else do it? What was she trying to escape that still held her down even in death? Did she finally manage to escape, or is she still stuck there?